Zuckerbrot!
Aloha, everybody. I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Well, everybody, it's time to return to the Hawaiian Islands, and for those who are unaware, while most animated Disney films had either one or two sequels, Lilo and Stitch was followed by 3 sequels, one of which I've already blogged back in May. However, 2 of the other sequels served as a beginning and a finale to one of my favorite animated Disney Channel shows, where Lilo and Stitch go all over Hawaii to capture all 625 experiments, redeem them, and find them a place where they can belong. And for today's episode, we're going to look at the movie which started Lilo and Stitch's experiment hunt. So, without further ado, released a video and DVD on August 26, 2003. The movie is Stitch the Movie. Now, let's get started with the plot of the film. It's been a while since Stitch, Jumba, and Pleakley have been living with Lilo and Nani in Blue Hawaii. But no one knows that Jumba had secretly deactivated all 625 of his other experiments and brought them with him to Earth. However, things are turned upside down when the ex-Captain Gantu, hired by Jumba's former partner, Dr. Jacques von Hämsterviel, goes to find them and captures Jumba to interrogate him into telling where they are. And now, Lilo and Stitch have to save Stitch's ohana from being used for chaos. So, what do I think? Well, in my personal opinion, this was a pretty good movie, and it was absolutely a lot of fun. And to further explain why I like this movie, let's head over to Mustang Notes. Now, as I said back in May, while this is the second movie released in the Lilo and Stitch franchise, chronologically, it is the 3rd movie in the franchise. The film was produced by Tony Craig, Jess Winfield, and Robert Bobs Ganaway. Ganaway also co-wrote and co-directed with Winfield and Craig respectively. Plus, they also executive produced and debuted the Lilo and Stitch TV series the following month. Also to note, at some point, there was a decision to only have Stitch's name in the titles of both the film and the subsequent series, which was planned to be called Stitch the TV series. Eventually, this was abolished, resulting in both this film and the TV show having mismatched names. The Stitch name was used as the title for the anime series 5 years after this film's release. And in case you're wondering, I don't really consider the anime shows canon with the franchise. Now, what are my thoughts on the animation? Well, to me, the animation for this movie is pretty good. But unlike the first film, and Stitch has a glitch, this style of hand-drawn animation is more like the style that you'd most likely see on television rather than a direct-to-video movie. But still not bad though. Also, I already mentioned before that I like the fact that this franchise is mainly set in Kokaua Town on the Hawaiian island of Kauai. And of course, the first and so far only time I've ever been to Hawaii was when I camped at Camp Pupukea on Oahu with the Boy Scouts of Troop 604 back in summer 2008. Plus, one of my followers, Nathan Higa, is also a Hawaiian. Moving on, one of my favorite scenes in this film is the part where Lilo and Stitch use Cobra Bubble's car while searching the entire island for the missing Experiment 221, until finally finding him at the Birds of Paradise Hotel. I also like that this film features a lighthouse known as the Kiolani Lighthouse, which is a real lighthouse in Hawaii. By the way, I wonder if it's one of my former 5th grade teacher, Peggy Davis Dutcher's favorite lighthouses, since she had her entire classroom lighthouse themed back when she had me as one of her students at Del Cerro. Another thing that I liked in this movie were the scenes in space, like the part where Lilo and Stitch use Jumba's spaceship to chase Gantu, and the final climax on Hämsterviel's mothership. Plus, I must mention that while the first film explained the value of family, this movie expands on it by explaining that everybody in Hawaii calls the people in their ohana cousin. Also to note, this film includes 3 songs, one being Slice and Sand, performed by the king of rock and roll himself, Elvis Presley, the second being the Peter Gunn theme, composed by the late Henry Mancini, and the third being the TV show's theme song, Aloha I Como Mai, performed by Jump 5. And now, let's move on to the characters and the voice actors who brought him to life. Let's start with Experiment 626, aka Stitch, once again voiced by Chris Sanders, who also vocalized as Mulan's dog, Little Brother. He directed DreamWorks' How to Train Your Dragon, The Croods, and the 2020 Call the Wild movie. And he'll be reprising his role as Stitch in the upcoming Disney Plus live-action remake. Anyway, at the start of this movie, Stitch is shown having a difficult time connecting with the island locals, feeling that he doesn't fit in and is too much of an outcast, which to me makes him feel very relatable and sympathetic. Also, throughout this movie, like in the first film, I think Stitch is a very mischievous but likable alien, and I really like his friendship bond with Lilo. Plus, I like that he uses many of his different functions, like his high intelligence, his bulletproof skin, his super strength, and his night vision. Also, I like the scenes where he hotwires a couple vehicles, like Jumba's spaceship and Cobra Bubble's car. And I like that whenever he does that, he says, "Kanzubo, zul." However, the part where Stitch uses David's chainsaw to slice a pineapple was really hilarious and crazy, and I thought his most heroic moment is when he saves Lilo from getting teleported to an intergalactic zoo. Next we have Lilo Pelikai, voiced by a young Davey Chase, whom was in Donnie Darko, The Ring, R.L. Stein's Haunted Lighthouse, and Hayao Miyazaki's Oscar-winning champion, Spirited Away. Now, for those who may not know, I learned from Isaac the Media Hunter, who reviewed the first movie back in February 2023, that Lilo is considered as autistic like I am. But, aside from Renee from the Pixar Spark short Loop, Lilo isn't the only one, because just recently, I discovered on Google that there are 5 other Disney characters who could also have the same disability. Anyway, during this movie, I like that Lilo tries to help Stitch by teaching him about cousins while he was trying to make friends at the beach, and after that fails, Lilo tries to comfort and encourage him by saying that he's one of a kind, while also comparing him to Frankenstein's monster. Also, I like Lilo's sense of bravery and determination, and after making friends with Experiment 221, I like that Lilo and Stitch decide to give names and homes to all the other experiments. Plus, I thought Lilo had a real blast while joining Stitch in outer space. Next we come to Lilo's older sister and guardian, Nani, voiced by Tia Carrera, and her boyfriend, David Kawina, this time voiced by D. Bradley Baker. To me, While they don't really contribute to much to this movie, I still like that they're sorta dating while going to dinner together. Plus, I also like the part where Nani contacts Cobra Bubbles for assistance. Still, Nani can be very intimidating when she catches Lilo out past her bedtime, and she can also be a little bit overprotective when she asks Lilo and Stitch to stay at the house while she's at work. As for David, well, I like that he believes that both Lilo and Stitch can handle Gantu together. Our next character is Stitch's creator, Dr. Jumbo Jokiba, voiced by the late David Ogden Stiers, whom was in films like Beauty and the Beast, the Pocahontas movies, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Hoodwinked. During this movie, it's revealed that Jumbo created a far greater amount of experiments other than Stitch, and because he refuses to reveal their location to either Gantu or Hämsterviel, Jumbo gets taken as a hostage. Also, in one scene, Jumbo tells Stitch that aliens don't technically have cousins, and while being interrogated by Hämsterviel, Jumbo says that he has no family. Next up is Wendell Pleakley, voiced by Kevin McDonald, whom was Mr. Medulla in Disney's Sky High. In this movie, before Jumbo got kidnapped by Gantu, he entrusted Pleakley with his experiment pod container while hiding them inside a toy chest. But after Lilo and Stitch let him out of said chest, Pleakley tells them about the other experiments and that they've been dehydrated before Jumbo brought them to Earth, hence why they appear in pod form. Also, Pleakley mentions that if any of the pods get wet, they can reactivate. Also, some of my favorite parts in this movie are the scene where Pleakley manages to contact Jumbo after countless telephone calls, and the part where Pleakley joins up with Cobra Bubbles while trying to help free Jumbo from Gantu and Dr. Hämsterviel. Next on our list is Cobra Bubbles, voiced by Ving Rhames, whom was in those terrible Piranha movies from the 2010s. In this film, when Jumbo was kidnapped, Cobra was called over to the Pelican residence to help figure out a way to save him. To me, Cobra is still a pretty good character, and I like that he believes that information is power. Plus, I also like the part where he signals the Grand Councilwoman for backup to apprehend Dr. Hämsterviel. Next is Lilo's hula classmate and rival, Myrtle Edmonds, voiced by Liliana Moni, whom was in the Santa Claus sequels, the Cheaper by the Dozen films, 3 of the Air Buddy movies, a few episodes from Sophia the First, and Roxy from the Nickelodeon dub of Winx Club. Like Nani and David, Myrtle doesn't really have a big role in this movie, but I still think she's a very unlikable brat, especially during the scene where it was revealed that she invited all her classmates except Lilo to a slumber party campout. Next we come to Captain Gantu, voiced by veteran voice actor Kevin Michael Richardson. In the first film, Gantu used to be the captain of the United Galactic Federation, but after his mission to capture Stitch, he was forced into retirement for his brutal manner, along with kidnapping and for endangering many lives. Anyway, during this film, Gantu serves as the secondary villain, aiding the evil Dr. Hämsterviel in his goal to take over the galaxy. He kidnaps Jumbo and uses him as hostage in order to gain the other 625 experiments. In my eyes, Gantu is still a ruthless guy, and there are times when he does not tolerate failure or being mocked. However, I do like that Lilo and several others describe Gantu as a big dummy, and when Stitch calls him Chico de Fata, which means fat. And it also has the same meaning as something that he says in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep.
Lala Patuki!
I'm just Big Bone!
Anyway, at the end of the movie, after a circuit malfunction, Gantu's ship crash lands and he becomes stranded near a waterfall in Kauai. Another character to talk about is the Grand Councilwoman, voiced by Zoe Caldwell. She makes a brief appearance nearing the end of the movie to assist in the capture of Dr. Hämsterviel, courtesy of Cobra Bubble Signal. Later, after the evil rodent alien is arrested, she thought of having Jumba's remaining experiments destroyed. However, Lilo and Stitch managed to change her mind by convincing her to allow them the chance to find, capture, and rehabilitate the experiments. And now let's move on to the new characters, starting with Experiment 221, aka Sparky, voiced by the legendary Frank Welker. Sparky is one of the first experiments to be reactivated, and he's the first experiment that Lilo and Stitch make friends with. He has the ability to use his electrical abilities to create crippling electric power surges. Now, I must let everybody know that Sparky is one of my favorite experiments next to Slugger, Swirly, Shush, Angel, and Skip. And like Stitch, Sparky can be very mischievous, hyperactive, and fun-loving. Plus, I like the part where he saves Stitch from being cut in half by overloading the cloning machine, and when he disabled Gantu's navigational system. Also, I like that at the end of the movie, Lilo and Stitch help find Sparky's one true place in the world, powering the abandoned Kilauea Lighthouse, where he can make the giant beacon light work again. Plus, another thing that makes Sparky such a great character is that he was featured as a boss in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Another experiment featured in this movie is Experiment 625, aka Ruben, voiced by Rob Paulson. Now, according to Jumba, Ruben has all of Stitch's abilities, and he's equipped with advanced lingual skills. Unfortunately, his main flaw in his programming is laziness. But on the other hand, he makes delicious sandwiches. During this movie and in the TV show, Ruben serves as Gantu's henchman. The last character to talk about is the main villain, Dr. Jacques von Hämsterviel, voiced by another veteran voice actor, Jeff Bennett. Before the events of the franchise, Hämsterviel was Jumba's former partner who assisted him in the creation of illegal genetic experiments. And Jumba thought that he died sometime before he was arrested. Anyway, in contrast to his diminutive size and his rodent-looking appearance, I find Hämsterviel to be a cunning, ruthless, and short-tempered villain, and he hates it whenever someone calls him a gerbil or when they mispronounce his name as Hamster Wheel. Hämsterviel's primary goal is to harness the power of Dr. Jumba's experiments so that he may overpower the Grand Councilwoman, take control of the Galactic Federation, and rule the universe. Also, I don't know if it's just me, but I find Hämsterviel's voice to be pretty similar to a Beagle Boy in the 2004 Mickey, Donald, Goofy, The Three Musketeers movie. Heck, one of my musical Theater Village friends tried to use the same voice tone while playing a French pirate in Peter Pan. And now on to my final words. Overall, Stitch the movie is a fun film, and I think it makes a great pilot for the Lilo and Stitch TV series. Sure, the animation is a slight downgrade, but not bad. The voice acting is great, like in the first movie. I also like how this movie expands on the moral of Ohana by teaching everybody about cousins. Plus, I think Lilo and Stitch make a great team together. Other characters like Jumba, Pleakley, and Cobra are good supporting characters, while Experiment 221, aka Sparky, is a character who totally steals the whole show from me after being rehydrated. Also, Dr. Hämsterviel is a very ruthless, short-tempered, but funny villain. Lastly to note, if you folks like Lilo and Stitch's movie franchise or their animated TV show, then be sure to give this movie a watch. I give this film a 93% out of 100. Now, in case you're wondering, yes, I'll be blogging the finale, Leroy and Stitch, soon, and I think my blog should be ready during this coming November. Well, anyway, that's all for now. Be sure to join me next time as we move away from Hawaii and onto the island kingdom of Hakalo for a stormy adventure to find the Fire Pearl. Mustang Power. Aloha!